Hi, this is Joe Shannon. I'm a lawyer, a husband, a father of 6 kids, and I also host a podcast called Opening Statement with Joe Shannon. Please consider listening to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and any other folks that host podcasts. Just Google Joe Shannon and podcast, and you'll find it. I hope you enjoyed the show. We're here today with Jeffrey Meldon. How are you, Jeffrey?
I'm doing great, Joe. How you doing today?
Good. So, although you are a native of Cleveland, Ohio, I'm speaking to you, and you are in Gainesville, Florida. Is that right?
Yes.
So I went through some background on you so I could just give the listeners a little bit of background. We are speaking with a legal giant here in Florida. Jeffrey Meldon has been a lawyer for, I want to say, over 51 years and has devoted his practice, Meldon Law, to basically having the main anchor office in Gainesville, Florida for about 50 years. Isn't that right, Jeffrey?
Yeah, 1971 is when we started. So we're in our 49th year now, and we're going to celebrate our 50th year next year.
Got any big plans?
No, just keep showing up.
You know, you've been showing up for your clients in the personal injury and criminal defense practice for years and years and years. And, I'm looking at a map of Florida, and I see Gainesville is a central place, but you do work throughout Florida. Isn't that right?
Yes, we've always had cases all over the state of Florida. In fact, we've helped clients outside the state of Florida in other parts of the United States. In my early days, I smuggling cases that took me all over the world.
Yeah, Jeff, you there?
Hello?
Yeah, so
Yes.
You said you did some cases early in your career in other states as well?
Yes, and like I said, during the 1970s, the Gainesville area had a lot of pot smugglers. So they had team members that were being arrested all over the world. So I used to fly out all the time during the 70s to try to rescue team members.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty scary stuff.
It was actually a lot of fun, and hey, renting out your own Learjet to go fly somewhere was pretty cool when you're in your 20s and early 30s.
Wow. So you've had your background from doing my research was that you graduated from Ohio State University. Is that right?
Yes. I graduated from Shaker Heights High School, and it was interesting because last night CBS 60 Minutes did a feature on Shaker Heights High School.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. When I went there in 1960, Shaker Heights was the wealthiest community in the United States.
Wow. And, I'm a little bit of a history guy, and I know that the other thing about Cleveland is that the oil industry started in Cleveland, Ohio, with Mr. John Rockefeller.
Yeah, absolutely. He was actually a huge benefactor for Cleveland for many, many years, and he had a lot of relatives there, and I knew some of the fourth and fifth generation Rockefellers, and their wealth was so incredible that even the distant descendants had huge trust funds set up.
Yeah, University of Chicago here in Chicago, where I am, was donated by Rockefeller and started by Rockefeller way back when. And but Cleveland's an interesting place. I don't know what it is, but people get really connected to the baseball team there and the football team there, and then where you went to college, people are somewhat connected to that university as well for football.
Yes, I still go back occasionally for Ohio State football games, even though I'm a huge Gator fan. And I stay in touch with some of my fraternity brothers, when I went to school there. And we had a really incredible group of friends.
Did Jack Nicklaus go to Ohio State University? Did Jack Nicklaus go
Pardon?
to Ohio State University, the golfer?
Yeah. So a funny story. So University of Southern California comes to Ohio State for a game about 7 years ago. And my roommate, Frank Cass from Ohio State, has done very well in real estate. And he has one of the nicest boxes with seats about 20 people right on the 50-yard line. So I go there, and who's there but Jack Nicklaus?
Did you get a chance to talk to the Golden Bear?
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to talk to the Golden Bear?
Yeah, I sat next to him for an hour and a half, talking to him about his time at Ohio State and what it was like. And he grew up there in Columbus. His dad was a pharmacist, and I asked him about. I said, when I was a freshman, you were a fifth-year senior in the business school, and I saw you and Jerry Lucas and John Havlicek and Tommy Weisskopf and all these guys walking around, and you were like superheroes to me. He said, yeah, there's a funny story about that my fifth year when I was going to get my degree. He was invited to play at the Australian Open, and he went to the dean of the business school and told the dean he wanted to take off 2 weeks so he could go play in the Australian Open, and he'd like to do his coursework remotely. And the dean told him no. So I said, well, what did you do? He said, well, I dropped out of school and I went and played in the Australian Open, and I never graduated.
That's funny. So, sometimes it's just craziness. One thing I do remember watching all those guys you just talked about, John Havlicek, Lucas, Wise, all those guys. It was just, to me, but watching Jack Nicklaus play golf when I was a kid, I read his books. I just thought he was one of the classiest sportsmen ever. And, I just, as a kid, and then when he was getting older in his 40s and he ended up winning that big tournament when in his 40s, I was just so happy. I think the whole country was happy for him.
Yeah, that was the Masters. He was, I think, the oldest winner of the Masters. He was 42 years old.
Wow. So anyway, enough talk about Cleveland. I know that you went to law school at Case Western. Is that in Cleveland too?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I went to Case Western. So I did all my education in Ohio. And then I picked up and moved to Gainesville in 1970. Took the bar, passed it, and opened up my law office in 1971 in Gainesville.
Let me take you back there. So you're sitting there in Cleveland, Ohio. What makes Jeffrey Meldon say to himself, hey, I'm going to Gainesville?
Well, I had a friend from Cleveland whose family had moved to South Florida, and he got a fellowship to the University of Florida, and he invited me to come down and visit. So I came down to visit, and I go, this place is awesome. I said, the University of Florida is there. It's the largest university in the Southeast United States. And it's very liberal, and I was a long-haired hippie lawyer. So I figured I'm going to make the move down here and see what happens.
I guess it turned out pretty good for you, Jeff.
Yes, no regrets. Absolutely.
So, you know, I know that you're pretty well known down in Gainesville and throughout Florida because of all of the great outreach that you've done. I was researching it, and if you anybody really wants to get to know, you know, some people just talk about you know, doing kind things for people or inspiring people, and there's other people that do stuff. And one thing I can say about Jeffrey and his law firm at Meldon Law, you can check it out how involved and deep he is involved in the community. If you go to meldonlaw.com and you just check out the About Us tab, I was there. It took me a long time to get through the list of all the great things you've done in the community. Jeff, what moved you to do some of that stuff?
Well, it's just fun. I enjoy being around people and helping other people, and you know, so that's what inspires me. And as everyone knows, the more you give, the more you get back.
You know, I love that. I absolutely love that. But you're saying some people talk about that, but does that happen in real life, Jeffrey?
Yes, absolutely.
Give me some concrete proof of that, because there are a lot of young people don't believe that.
Well, I've been, you know, I'm involved with, you know, the law school and teaching there, and I have students that I've taught, you know, who, you know, come back years and years later, and, you know, they'll ask me for help, and we'll help them, and then they start referring cases to us, or we collaborate on cases. I'm very active in the Jewish community. I'm the president of the local Jewish student group Chabad here, and I help a lot of the kids out there, and we get involved in activities, and you know, they wind up finding me when they need legal help. I'm a chapter advisor for the ZBT fraternity here. I'm very involved with the APAC, the American Israel Lobby, and our United States Congressman. And so we, you know, we find a lot of fun things to do there. And it goes on and on and on. And, you know, the local community we're involved in, we sponsor the Tom Petty birthday bash.
Now, hold on a second now. The Tom Petty birthday bash. So I know people are going to want to hear about that. What's your relationship there?
Well, I was Tom Petty's first lawyer, and that happened. I was Tom Petty's first attorney. In 1970, when I moved here, I had a period of time when I was studying for the bar, and, you know, had to take it and all that stuff. So I had about a year before I finished all that. And I was working with Tom Petty. He was in a group called Mudcrutch at the time. And we were putting together music shows. And eventually we put on a mini Woodstock called the Mudcrutch
Hold on a second. So were you a singer there, Jeff?
A what?
Yeah, were you the singer or are you the bass guy?
No. No, I'm just the implementer, Joe.
So how'd you meet Tom Petty?
Well, he was living in Gainesville. He's from Gainesville, and he was part of the music scene here. And I had roots in the music scene because my father, who was a real estate developer. Before he was a real estate developer, he owned the largest jazz nightclub between New York and Chicago in Cleveland called the Loop Lounge from 1950 to 1956. So I grew up around the music scene. And when I went to Ohio State, I was social chairman and rush chairman and brought in a lot of musical acts. So I had an interest in music. And so I gravitated towards the music scene in Gainesville and got to know Tom Petty and a lot of the other people who were part of the eventually were part of the Heartbreakers. It was his
Wow.
group.
So you moved to Florida. You've got this music background from working for your dad and meeting all these. I know that we've spoken before, and you met all these legends of the music scene back when you worked in Cleveland, and then now you're meeting the future legend, Tom Petty. And so, how long of a relationship did you have with Tom Petty that you were working with him?
Well, we had a good time. We put on these festivals. First one was one day. Then the second festival we did was a 3-day festival. And so when I opened up my law office, Tom asked me if I wanted to, help him develop his career with his group. And I said, sure. I didn't have any clients, so I had plenty of time. So we worked together for a while, and I helped him, book acts and try to figure out what he was going to do to, make it big.
And make it big, he did.
Yeah, he's huge, and it's he. As a matter of fact, right around the corner from my house is the newly named Tom Petty Park, and we work with the number one tribute band for Tom Petty, who sponsors the Tom Petty annual birthday bash every October. And it's turned out to be a big event. And Meldon Law is, very involved as their lawyer and their sponsor.
That's great. And so, we're speaking here on a podcast, but I mean, you're used to being on the air. You're used to being on television. You're used to being on radio. And in fact, when I was looking at your background, I see that you have the longest running radio show on Saturday mornings at 10:30 in the morning on 97.3 FM in Gainesville.
Yeah, on the Sky. Yeah, we've had a weekly live radio show call in, and it's called Law Talk Live. We started in 2002. Every Saturday morning for 18 years, either myself or someone from my office on the show. If I'm traveling somewhere around the world, I'll usually call in and, say hello. And we help people answer their legal questions and give them informative information about what they can do with regard to legal issues.
You got any great stories about that? Any funny ones that came in that or memorable ones?
Well, I think there a lot are memorable. I know. I'll tell you. Last week we did a show that everybody at that station said was one of the best shows they've heard. We've collaborated with a group from Fort Lauderdale who are experts in business interruption insurance, and we've opened up a new aspect to our business where we're helping business owners recover from the
Yeah, that's pretty timely, isn't it?
Yeah. So, well, we just started it. I mean, as soon as things happened, we started figuring out things. And my son Kerry, who's down in Fort Lauderdale, where crazy. He made got in touch with a law firm that's on the cutting edge of this area of law. So anyhow, that show was great, and we're really developing that. We've got a COVID-19 business interruption page on our website now, and I'm advertising it on TV, radio, billboards, and we're going to see if we can help some business owners.
The one thing that I'm really picking up from looking at your life and your career is the importance of relationships in your life. And one of the things that that's hitting me is looking at these COVID-19 updates is that you have a deep, very deep relationship with the people of Florida in that you really care about them to post this, to spend all this money to post all of these great updates. I mean, I'm looking on this, our response to the COVID-19 updates, and you're basically giving all of these different counties the updates and the folks to know how to handle business interruption and all that type of stuff, because you have a relationship with these people and it seems like you kind of feel their pain.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Joe. I mean, these are, all of our neighbors and friends and people that, I've been friends with for years. And we felt it was insensitive to keep advertising our personal injury, car crashes, and things like that. So we took all those ads off the air, and I brought a TV crew to my home and just sent a message out to the community saying that Meldon Law was working remotely, that we were here to help you. We're going to, we established a free attorney hotline for people to call in about any concerns they have. And we have all the lawyers in the firm answering calls for free to people and letting them know what their rights are as far as, their employee rights, their rights as far as getting benefits. So we're trying to do that. And we established this free COVID-19 resource page on our website. And all of our commercials on TV now are directed towards community response to what's going on. And we felt like that's the best thing to do to just help the community out. I think it's also, it's the right thing to do, and it creates positive branding.
No, that's great. I really like that. I like the fact that you're not talking about a transactional thing, that you really believe that the folks that you represent, even 5, 10, 20 years ago, are folks that you want to have a relationship with over a long time, and you're there to help them.
Absolutely. It all comes back, and we're trying to be leaders in the community in that regard.
So give us a little perspective from your life. I know that that you've been through a lot of ups and downs in America in your lifetime, and can you give some of the listeners perspective on this really scary time right now? We're speaking, on April 6th, 2020, and a lot of people are they're pretty scared about what's going on.
Well, I think there's good reason to be, because it's it's serious business, and that in our lifetime we've never experienced anything quite like this. I think in my parents' time, certainly World War II had a tremendous disruptive effect as far as people's ordinary lives. And during my lifetime, there's certain things that I remember that, I would consider to be pretty crazy. I mean, I remember I was in college when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and we were getting ready to head up from Columbus up to Ann Arbor for the Ohio State Michigan game, and we were all sitting around trying to figure out, what's going to go on next,
Yeah.
And what's the what's happening in the world and stuff like that, and it all kind of it worked out the way it worked out, but that was pretty crazy times. But that was different. It was shorter, and then, the meltdown of the economy in 2007 and 2008 was pretty crazy.
How did you guys respond to that back then?
Well, we did fine. I mean, we just kept things going, and we were in doing personal injury cases back then in criminal defense, and it was a little more difficult for our criminal defense clients to pay, but our personal injury cases went on, and luckily the insurance industry stayed solvent. So we got through that, and it was actually a period of expansion for us. So those are times that I can think of when it was really what I would call very, very different times, and things where I didn't really know what was going to happen. Getting back to today, I think everybody just needs to stand strong and be smart. I told our office that there's three principles that we're going to be guided by. And, number one is everybody's got to stay safe. Number two, we're going to continue to serve our clients. And number three, everybody in the office is going to continue to get their regular paycheck, throughout this whole thing.
I bet you they were pretty glad to hear that.
Yeah, because all around them, people are losing their jobs and freaking out and everything else, and wanted to make sure that their were allayed as far as what was going to happen in their lives.
I the one thing that I really respect about businesses that can keep going. I mean, my heart goes out to folks in the restaurant business and the movie theater, and all these businesses that basically people have to congregate, and they're shut down. And luckily for some of us in the service industry, we're able to work remotely, and we basically haven't missed a beat other than just meeting people and going to court. But I tell folks that we represent that 98% of what we do does not involve going to court for at least our serious injury cases. It's basically putting the case together, and then eventually the courts will open again. Do you have an idea when the courts will open down in Florida?
Well, actually, the courts are open as far as what you and I do, filing motions and even having hearings. The judges are having remote hearings. Obviously, there's no jury trials, and there's no in-person meetings. But since we have everything electronically filed, we're just moving forward, and the judges in our area, whatever you can do electronically, just keep doing. And that's, as that's 90% of what we do.
When you look back on your 51 years of practice and 50 years almost of Meldon Law in Gainesville, why don't you tell us some of, I know you have a ton of defining moments. I know you've told us how you have a great relationship with Gainesville. You have a great relationship with your heritage and your faith life. What were some of the defining moments, or what was a defining moment that you could share with us in your life?
I don't know if there's any one defining moment, but a funny story is, I'm a young lawyer, and they were doing all these marijuana busts in Gainesville, and I get a call in the middle of the night. I think it was 2:30 in the morning, from somebody who had been arrested and was down at the local jail. This is like probably 1972. And so I throw some clothes on, go down to the jail. Well, back then they had the lawyers meet with their clients in the cell with the right in the cell, the lawyers and the clients. And in fact, they didn't even separate us from the rest of the people who had been arrested. So I'm sitting there with maybe 10 people who had just been arrested for marijuana charges. And next thing I know, I walk out of I walk into the jail cell with no clients, and I walk out with about 8 or 9.
Isn't that called being in the right place at the right time?
Yeah. So that was pretty cool, right? For a young lawyer that didn't have many cases.
Wow. And so what did that teach you?
Hey, get up in the middle of the night if a client calls on a big case.
Yeah. So are there any habits that you could tell the listeners about that have been good in your life that have helped you get to where you're at?
Well, I think you have to blend focus and your law practice with enjoying yourself in your own life.
Mm.
We've always had a lot of family activities, and we always did things that made me look forward to things other than just work. And that, for the last 26 years, I dedicated myself to staying in shape. And I've had a personal trainer 3 days a week up until the last week, working out with weights and, cardio and doing all that. And even now, I'm trying to walk an hour and a half to 2 hours a day and do yoga and do, exercises to keep myself feeling good.
So you walk over an hour a day?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Saturday, I think I walked 2 hours.
How long you been doing that?
Well, I usually do it at the gym, but we can't go to the gym now.
So you're just going outside now?
Yeah, which is great. I love it. I mean, I'm walking all over the place, and I've got my yoga mat. I've been doing yoga now for, I think, probably since 1970. I do yoga every morning.
And so what does that involve? Does that involve like listening to a tape or TV, or what do you do?
Well, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'll put on the morning news and do my stretching and, all that exercise, and try to, sometimes, do a little meditation and kind of focus in on what is going on. But I'll tell you one thing, Joe, that I do in the morning. As you know, business life is not always like simple, and sometimes it gets very stressful. And so I'll think in the morning when I'm on my yoga mat about how I can make this day a great day, even though I know there's going to be a lot of stressful activity going on. And that really helps, because we can only have, one day at a time. And if you don't take advantage of that day, then you've wasted that day, and you're probably not going to turn your ship around very fast if you keep letting the anxiety of the moment dictate how you're going to enjoy your life.
So basically what you're telling us is make sure you take care of your body and your spirit and everything else first, and then you can reach out to people.
Absolutely. If you're not strong yourself, then how are you going to help your clients?
Let me finish this up by, a lot of lawyers, and heck, in your 50 years of law practice, are there any, great trials? I mean, heck, man, you already told us you were Tom Petty's lawyer for a long time. That's pretty cool, just in itself. And then the story about walking into that jail cell. I mean, heck, man, I don't know, man. You got a lot of guts. But anyway, so are there any like trials or big cases that you worked on that would be interesting for our listeners?
Well, there was a number of different cases I worked on, but one went to the Supreme Court of the United States, and it's the seminal case as far as the Sixth Amendment, double jeopardy. And there was a young law student named Nat Dinitz who was charged with delivering LSD to an undercover agent. And it was an interesting case because I'm a young lawyer. I don't know what I'm doing. And he chose me to help him get through it as a federal case. And we're working and trying to come up with defenses. And then one day my client comes to me, says, I was approached by this person who said that for $10,000 in cash, he'd make the case go away. So I'm thinking to myself, what do I do next? It's like, no, that's not something they teach you in law school. So I called the FBI, and talked to a guy over there that I knew, and I told him about it. And he said, okay, well, let's stay in touch and let's figure out what's going to happen next. So I hooked him up with my client, and lo and behold, my client was able to get back in touch with the guy who said he was going to make the case go away. And they actually planned for a drop off of the $10,000 at a 7-Eleven store near the college. And the FBI are there, and my client shows up with a brown paper bag with was supposed to be $10,000, but I don't think it was. And the guy shows up, and he goes and he grabs the bag, and somehow he gets away. And so the FBI basically dropped the ball. And so in defending the case, we came up with this concept that the only person that could have made this case go away was the case agent who had been the witness who had made this buy from him. And it became the case of the incredible witness, meaning the case agent. So this case went on. I had gotten a plea deal for a misdemeanor for my client. He turned it down. I brought in my father-in-law, who was a famous trial lawyer with 20 years of experience, and he and I sat there to try the case. And when the judge told my father-in-law not to use the term "the case of the incredible witness," the bailiffs came in and wound up throwing my father-in-law in jail during the middle of the trial. Okay, we had the constitutional law professor from the University of Florida Law School sitting at counsel table as co-counsel. And the judge turns to me, a first-year lawyer who had never tried a case in his life except maybe a few DUIs. And he says, okay, Mr. Meldon, take over. And anyhow, I looked at the judge and I said, well, Your Honor, I've been co-counsel, but I really haven't been prepared to take on as lead counsel. And he said, well, find out from your client whether or not he wants to, ask for a mistrial. He said, I'll grant one, So we went out, talked with the con law professor. My client decided to ask for a mistrial, came back in, told the judge we want a mistrial, and the judge granted it. And now the jury had been impaneled already. So,
right.
So at that point, my client, a month or two later, decides that he didn't consent to the mistrial. So now he argues double jeopardy, and it went to the appellate court in Atlanta, which at that time was the Fifth Circuit, and the conviction, or they ruled that double jeopardy attached, and they dismissed the case.
Nice.
And then it went to the Supreme Court of the United States, and in what I believe was a 5-4 decision, they reversed the circuit court. But if you ever look up United States Dinnett, you'll see Jeffrey over there with my Reese Wagner. And it's the wildest case you've ever seen.
Wow. So did you guys go argue the case in front of the Supreme Court?
No, the con law professor did. That's why he was there.
Wow. And that must have been. Did you go up there and watch it?
No, I didn't. I was like, I was busy running an office. I didn't have time for that. But anyhow, it was a very interesting case. And eventually, Mr. Dinnett, although Mr. Dinnett was convicted later on of a felony, he wound up getting to be a lawyer, and we became friends later on.
So closing this interview up here, Jeffrey, what do you had your own law firm for about 50 years. What would you say to guys, just get women and men that are getting out of law school now that want to start their own practice? What would you tell them? Would you recommend it, or would you say, this is not worth it?
Well, for my son, Kerry, I supported his decision to become a prosecutor for 4 years, and he got to try over 50 jury trials. And I thought that was a great training ground for him. And so I think, doing some kind of work, either as a prosecutor or public defender, or even going to work for, if you're interested in the insurance industry, go work for an insurance defense firm for a couple of years and see how they do it, and then switch over, or just start with a good plaintiff's law firm. I was never interested in doing a bunch of business law and stuff like that. I was more interested in the trial law. And so if you want to get into it, then make a plan and see where it leads you.
So if folks want to get a hold of you, Jeffrey, and they've got a legal problem or they just want to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you?
Oh, our nationwide number is 1-800-373-8000, or you can get me by email at jmeldon@meldonlaw.com, or just look up Meldon Law, and there's lots of phone numbers and emails there. So going to Meldon Law is an easy way.
I tell you, so this has been a great time chatting with Tom Petty's lawyer, Jeff Meldon, as well as a guy that got a case to the U.S. Supreme Court in his first 3 years of practice. He's a teacher and trial head at University of Florida Law School. He's on the air every Saturday morning at 10:30 in Gainesville. The one thing I do like about Jeff's law firm is his motto is "You matter most," and I can believe it. To be a client of Jeffrey Meldon and Meldon Law is I'm sure a privilege and an honor, but it's been great chatting with you, Jeffrey, and hopefully you'll come talk with us again.
Yeah, Joe, it's great. And, I love the brotherhood we have in our Crisp X group. I think it's terrific, and it's a good way for us to support each other during these crazy times.
Yeah, well, we'll be there for you, brother. Take care of yourself.
Okay, see you later, Joe.
Thank you for listening to the opening statement with Joe Shannon. You can find us on the internet at shannonlawgroup.com or telephone our office at 312-578-9501. Have a terrific day.